I don't know what's going on with Atletico Madrid, but I don't like it, and I don't think the fans at the Vicente Calderón are enjoying it at the moment. So yesterday, they got smacked 3-0 by the Yellow Submarine.
On Monday?
Villarreal, yes, Villarreal absolutely gave them a good old... How'd you like that?
Bent them over the barrel and showed them the 50 states.
Do they know the 50 states? Do they know, Atletico fan, do you know the 50 states? Because I
Horrible
don't.
Bosses won, I believe. Jason Sudeikis' line.
Is it?
He's like, it's from a movie. He goes, no, it's not. He goes, now it is.
So Atletico Madrid are not the same Atletico Madrid team that we know and love because they're winning games by larger margins and they're losing games by larger margins. So let's take a look really quick at their form before we get into their table.
They are the United States economy smushed into 6 games.
Yeah, they've been very strange recently, just very strange. So there you go. Smacked 3-0 by Villarreal, beating in the Champions League by Bayern Munich, as we know. 0-0 with Espanyol. And then look, 6-0, but it's Copa del Rey, I understand. 3-0 against Osasuna, 2-0 against PSV, and then, of course, that result against Real Madrid, as we know, 3-0. Up and down.
Here's what I find, like, if you look at the could we go back to that real quick, Jabbar? Corey? There we go. J-A-C-O-R-E-Y, by the way, comment section, not J-A-K-O-R-I. Ja'Cory, because everyone writes in the comments, Ja'Cory or however the fuck you spell his name.
Yeah.
He's a cool dude. Yes, Ja'Cory is a cool dude. Between Real Madrid's 3-0 win over Atletico and the Espanyol draw, they were 11-0 combined run of like just absolutely annihilating everything in their path across 3 different competitions all in a short period of time.
Yeah.
In 7 days. So maybe they spent too much energy. Maybe they tactically planned that out well enough, and then when they came to this stretch, they were exhausted? I'm asking you.
I don't know.
Or do you think you see something wrong in itself? That
they're playing sexier football.
Okay,
but they're abandoning the fundamentals that got them the success.
That's my question for you. Do you think the last 3 games is more telling of the next few, or do you think that the smashing, the 11-0 over 3 games,
beating the team in the Copa del Rey 6-0 doesn't mean anything to me. It's a result. It's whatever. It's good on paper, but when you're losing a game 3-0 against Villarreal, who are a tough opponent, that is a red flag that Atletico Madrid, especially Atletico Madrid, are not focusing as much so, for some reason, on their defensive capabilities in La Liga. In the Champions League, they conceded 2 goals throughout the whole 6 games. So they are fine in the Champions League. 2 goals in a tough group.
Maybe that's just their goal.
Maybe it is, finishing atop their group. I mean, would it be your goal if you lost 2 out of the last 3 years in the Champions League final? It's a tough one to swallow. I'm sure you want to have 4th time a charm and go through it and finally right that wrong. But
no, my one goal would just be like make Real Madrid pay.
That's the only way you'll do it. You have to go through them.
Win 9-0.
Never happening.
Embarrass them.
Never happening.
Make Griezmann.
Griezmann is someone that there was talk about whether or not he's in a dip of form. I don't think so. I think he deserves a lot of credit, pulling in 3rd in the Ballon d'Or, next in line to the 2 greatest players we've seen in the last decade. So great for him, but I don't know what's going on. Like when I watched Atletico Madrid against Real Madrid in particular, there was far too much space in behind. There was a lot more pushing of numbers forward, which Atletico Madrid usually do, but they're also so comfortable chaotically in that transition. But they look susceptible. They were the better team for a large part of that game against Real Madrid. But that was where Real Madrid seemed to pose a question to Atletico, is they're like, all right, come on to us. We'll play your own game. We'll be like the big sponge and we'll absorb all this pressure and then we'll hit you on the counter-attack. And Atletico were experts at doing that. And I don't see them doing it as much so this year. And despite the fact that they've been in fine form in the Champions League, I worry for them in the next up-and-coming games. I think that they're safe to say they're out of La Liga. I don't think that's a boldish claim where they're sitting, 5th?
No, but so if we go to the table, that's 6th on the table. And that's what I'd be worried about, is because, I mean, I think it would be very surprising if Atletico does not finish in the top 4. However, this is the roughest position they've been in. I know they're 1 point out in the last 3 years in terms of La Liga. So it's not just about focusing on this year's Champions League, which, as you mentioned, only 2 goals conceded is phenomenal play. But they have to keep themselves afloat in La Liga so they can continue to play Champions League football, because Sevilla deserves a ton of respect and credit this year, even though I'm pulling for Leicester in that group stage match.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, in that round of 16 matchup. Sevilla is a team that should not be taken lightly, and is, when you look at it and you go, wow, they're only a point behind.
Yeah.
I look at the goal differential, though, as I almost always do when it comes to the table, and with 14 on the season, only 14 conceded goals, save for Villarreal's defense. Sorry, I know, guys, we pronounce it differently here. Defense, I look at that and go, well, they should be at least fourth. Every year they should be at least third. They're the biggest team aside from Barcelona and Madrid.
The past 3 years consecutively, they've been by far and away the best defensive team in terms of their goal differential.
In the world.
Yeah, in the world and in La Liga. They're right there with Real Madrid. They're not having a bad defensive year. Their games are more sporadic. Usually it would be out. They would go through a stretch like they did a couple of years ago of, I think they tied 3 consecutive games 0-0. That's not good. Like, it's not something you're going to celebrate, but they're not conceding goals as easily. But losing to 2 teams who you should be competing against in that top 4-5 realm, Villarreal and Real Madrid, losing to them 6-0 combined is not a good representation of the Atletico Madrid that we have known for years, where they will ground a result and they will always be very strong defensively.
Is this Diego Simeone trying to transition the team to a different style? I think that's what you've been alluding to. Or is it just him maybe experimenting during this time where you can afford, in a way, to experiment?
Here's the thing.
I don't
blame Diego Simeone for trying to experiment, because here's the reality. Great defensively, but where did they fall short? Against teams that were able to combine very well-structured defensive formation with a devastating counter-attack. They fell twice to Real Madrid in the Champions League final, the first of which they were very unlucky. I mean, a last-minute goal from Sergio Ramos. The second time, very unlucky again. I thought Real Madrid were still the better team, but losing out to Real Madrid in PKs, having missed a penalty kick, you would say that it's just luck. But Diego Simeone doesn't rely on luck. He likes to make his own luck. This is a guy that made a defensive team one of the best teams in Europe. But he's hit a ceiling, I think. And he's like, we can't just keep falling short like this. We have got the talent there that we can go out and beat teams 2-0, 3-0. But when you do that, you leave yourself a little bit more open at the back, and that's something that takes some time to adjust. So it's not panic stations yet. I think when you go into the second half of the season, unless Atletico really shore up their form in the league, I deliberately have made the point in the past that, yeah, you can win Champions Leagues without your domestic form being great, but it doesn't hurt to be in a good run of form no matter what. And I think Atletico won't want to just be focusing on the Champions League.
I agree with you on most points, almost always. I think Diego Simeone should continue to continue to experiment until the new year. And then you got to go fall back on what hasn't failed you in the past.
Yeah.
He's fine in the Champions League. That doesn't start up till Valentine's Day, February 14th, which I now know is celebrated in many places. Dumbass American I am. And 2, they got another matchup against Barcelona this year. They got another matchup against Real Madrid this year. And it should be very different, or you would think it would be a different outcome, because 3-0 loss to Real Madrid doesn't seem like Atletico Madrid at home.
And this was a game that was a kryptonite.
That screams 1-1.
Yeah, that screams a 1-1, 2-1.
And if it is a loss, it's 1-0.
Yeah.
Come on now. 73rd minute goal.
Ramos last minute. By the way, Ramos
possession for Real Madrid 80%, but the defense just, continuously packing the box and making it a nightmare for Ronaldo and Benzema.
Well, here's the last upside point. Is it makes him a little bit more exciting. It makes him a little bit more exciting to watch. So if you're a neutral fan, not in the red and white, you're enjoying watching them.
I've come to appreciate the Juventuses and Atletico Madrids of the world. I like watching that football, but maybe I'm boring.
Oh, sorry, did you say something? Sorry. Hit us in the comments. Twitter, Francis_Maxwell91. I'm going to be the guy at the end of the commercials on the radio.